The first wrong turn, choosing without knowing. Imagine standing at a fork in the road. The air is heavy with silence. To your left, a winding trail vanishes into thick fog. To your right, another path curves out of sight behind tall, unmarked trees. You carry no map. You own no compass. You don't even know which way the sun will set. And yet, you must choose. You cannot stand there forever. This is the first mistake most of us make, and it is not a single moment but a pattern that begins in childhood and threads through the rest of our lives. We assume we know enough to decide, when in truth, we are choosing blind. We treat choices as though they are acts of wisdom, when many are little more than guesses clothed in false certainty. The unsettling part is that we rarely notice this at the time. Each choice feels monumental. Each decision feels like a declaration of identity. But years later, looking back, it becomes clear. We weren't wise, we were guessing. We stepped forward because standing still felt unbearable. Humans are not designed to wait for clarity. Our wiring favors action. From the first friendships we form on playgrounds to the first subjects we declare as our passion, we leap ahead. We chase surface impressions, imitate cultural defaults, or act on emotional impulses. Rarely do we pause to ask, "Do I know enough?" The truth is, if we asked that question honestly, the answer would almost always be no. The pattern shows up everywhere. We pick a major in school because it sounds respectable or pays well, without ever asking what kind of life that choice builds. We enter relationships because it's the right time or everyone else is doing it. We buy into fads because they seem safe, because they signal belonging, because they are easier than silence. Like explorers wandering into an uncharted forest with misplaced confidence, we move forward certain that the path will reveal itself. And sometimes it does, but sometimes, years later, we look up and realize we have been walking in circles. A student who chose medicine not because of passion, but because their parents admired doctors, and 10 years later feels trapped. A teenager who joined a friend group because they were simply nearby, only to discover years later how those influences shaped their values in unseen ways. A 20-something who picked a job in finance for stability, and then woke up a decade later wondering when stability became a prison. Here lies a paradox worth losing sleep over. We cannot avoid choosing blind, because waiting for perfect clarity means never moving at all. To live is to decide in ignorance. To delay forever is to wither. Which raises an uncomfortable thought. Is every decision the wrong one until time redeems it? If all choices are guesses, then perhaps the word mistake is meaningless. Perhaps there are only outcomes we reinterpret later, depending on how generous or bitter we feel. This recognition cuts deep. The fork in the road was never about right or wrong. It was simply about movement. And yet, the mind insists on labeling, on turning ignorance into shame. But the first wrong turn is never the last. Beyond the mistake of choosing blind lies an even subtler one. The belief that once we have chosen, we must never let go. The illusion of control, clinging to certainty. If the first mistake is choosing without knowing, the second is gripping those choices so tightly that we forget they were guesses to begin with. Human beings crave stability. We want to believe our lives are coherent stories, that our choices reveal destinies rather than accidents. And so, we cling. We craft narratives to justify our path. This is who I am. This is what I was born to do. This is my forever. These narratives become armor. They protect us from the unbearable thought that we might have been wrong. Instead of adjusting course, we double down. Instead of admitting uncertainty, we construct identities around guesses. Entire marriages, careers, and self-images rest on this scaffolding of stubbornness. History itself offers the same warning. Empires that refused to adapt collapsed under the weight of their illusions. And on the personal level, we follow the same script. The entrepreneur who refuses to pivot because this is the business I started, only to watch competitors evolve and thrive. The individual who stays in a relationship that drains them because walking away means I failed. The parent who forces a child into the same career path they once chose, desperate to prove their own decision was right. The irony is sharp. The harder we cling, the more fragile we become. Life is nothing but change, but the refusal to change makes us brittle. When we mistake identity for destiny, we forget that identity was a guess all along. The mistake of control isn't about being wrong once. It's about refusing the possibility of being wrong again. It is the defense mechanism that calcifies into prison bars. It is the fear of shedding masks we once thought were skin. If clinging to control dooms us, then perhaps the deeper error isn't in our choices, but in the medium they unfold within, time itself. Borrowed time, misunderstanding the clock. We live as though time is endless, until it isn't. The mistake here is subtle but lethal, treating hours as infinite, futures as guaranteed, and the present as expendable. Psychologists call it the planning fallacy, our tendency to underestimate how long things will take. We assume tomorrow will arrive neatly packaged, ready to accommodate our schedules. Philosophers remind us of something worse. Time itself is a phantom we mishandle daily. We waste today preparing for tomorrow. We waste tomorrow regretting yesterday. Like sand slipping through our fingers, time only feels real in the moments when we notice it running out. The student who insists, "There's plenty of time," until exams arrive and panic sets in. The adult who postpones travel, hobbies, or confessions of love for someday, only to discover that someday never comes. The worker who assumes decades of health will remain, only to face illness that erases the future they were saving for. The paradox is brutal. We must plan, but no plan survives contact with reality. We must save for the future, yet the future is never promised. We must value time, but time resists valuation. It slips through even the tightest grip. The mistake of time is simple yet devastating, living everywhere but here. We rush ahead into fantasy futures or stumble backward into regrets, while the only thing we ever actually touch, the present, passes by unnoticed. The unsettling realization, maybe life is only ever the fleeting now. Everything else, future and past alike, is shadow play. And if time itself is misunderstood, then the next mistake is how we use it to measure ourselves against others. The comparison trap, measuring lives against shadows. Perhaps no mistake corrodes the soul as quietly as comparison. To weigh your worth against someone else's highlight reel is to enter a contest you cannot win. Comparison is double-edged. On one side, it fuels ambition. On the other, it ensures permanent dissatisfaction. Social media has turned this into an epidemic, lives curated, filtered, and presented as if they are reality. The trap is forgetting that everyone's timeline is different. Everyone's struggles remain invisible. Yet we act as if we are contestants in the same invisible race, sprinting toward an undefined finish line. The musician who abandons joy in their art after measuring success against chart toppers. The young parent who feels inadequate because online strangers seem to do it all effortlessly. The professional who believes they are behind because someone else bought a house first. Comparison blinds us to the only life we actually own, our own. It creates phantom mistakes, regrets over paths we never even desired. It forces us to live in borrowed shadows, losing sight of the fact that shadows can never sustain us. And beneath it all lurks a deeper horror. If happiness depends on outpacing others, is it even happiness? Or is it simply temporary relief in an endless competition? Beyond choices, beyond control, beyond time, and beyond comparison, we arrive at the last mistake, the one that makes all the others possible: forgetting to exist. The forgotten presence, missing the point of being. Perhaps the greatest mistake isn't about what we do, but what we fail to notice. Life is lived in moments, yet most of us live as though life is still waiting to begin. Existence is not rehearsal. There is no final act waiting. Yet we convince ourselves otherwise. We say, "When I get the promotion, then I'll rest. When I retire, then I'll live. When things are perfect, then I'll be happy." But perfection never arrives. Retirement is not guaranteed. Happiness delayed is often happiness denied. The root mistake of being is this endless postponement, this sleepwalking through existence. The worker who spends 40 years sacrificing every joy for a future they never reach. The traveler who waits until the right time, only to find their health has left them behind. The parent who promises to spend time with their children later, until later is gone. The chilling truth is that life was never waiting for us at a finish line. It was happening all along. Every wrong turn, every illusion, every misuse of time and comparison, all of it is folded into the same truth. That simply being here, now, was the point. Maybe the mistakes we fear are not interruptions to life, but life itself. And so, we return full circle. Mistakes are not detours from living, they are living. Every wrong step was the only step possible. Every blind choice, every stubborn grip, every wasted hour, every jealous glance, all of it was the texture of existence itself. As you close your eyes tonight, drifting towards sleep, perhaps the comfort is this. There is no perfect path you failed to find. There was only ever the one you walked.